I'm Don Mooers, and welcome to this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. This past week was filled with news from Virginia about the sentencing of the governor of Virginia and also the topic of sentencing guidelines. Mariana Cordier, a leading local attorney in Montgomery County, will discuss this issue for us. Community Clinic, Inc. treats thousands of patients throughout Montgomery County and Prince George's County, has a new CEO, Kathleen Knolhoff. She's here to tell us about the services and the great programs offered by CCI as it works to try to help make our county a healthier place. The House of Ruth has services here in Montgomery County and Prince George's County as well. Fantastic. We have Asjoure Brown, who works in the county, telling us all about what the House of Ruth does and the services that it provides. Montgomery Community Media has a new president of the board, and his name is Jeffrey Slavin, mayor of the great town of Chevy Chase.
Somerset.
Of Somerset. Well, I know, the town of Somerset. I apologize. He's here to tell us all about what's going on at My Community Media, at MCM, his plans, his great board, and also talk about the great leadership that MCM has in Merlin Reinecke. Thank you. Mariana Cordier, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
No, it's great. Sentencing guidelines. Now, we've been reading about the governor of Virginia. People seem to be either angry or happy that he's actually serving time. People are saying that he's not serving enough time. What is this? And we've been hearing a lot about sentencing guidelines. What are those?
Well, it's a federal case, and when you have a federal criminal case...
Whoa. But he's a governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Why is it a federal case? Shouldn't it be under the laws of Virginia?
Well, you could select the jurisdiction, but it has to do with, I think, the charges and the way that the actions were taken and how it occurred. It applied for federal.
Okay.
And so the thing is with federal, generally, because of the guidelines, sentencing sometimes is considered to be more time. You're exposed to more jail time. And in the state guidelines, if the state has guidelines, okay. I am not a Virginia attorney, so I don't know what Virginia is like. Usually there's more flexibility and you can get a lower sentence. So the big news is that he got 2 years, and people are questioning how the judge applied the guidelines. And so what really happens is that in 1984, federal sentencing guidelines were made mandatory. Case came down, right. Booker, and it made them advisory.
Now, in the news, it was all talking about 10 years. 10 years
right.
was the expectation, and he got 2 years.
Right.
So I thought there was some outcry, like, why did he get so little when he did this atrocious thing of being a corrupt politician?
Well, it goes back to the guidelines. The guidelines takes various factors into consideration, and that's how they come up with the range, right? And so what had happened is the judge had removed the obstruction of justice a portion of the case from the calculation of the guidelines, and it lowered his guidelines. Okay.
So do you think he's going to serve any time, actually?
Well, it's interesting because I do criminal defense work, and I can tell you that many times when we go to sentencing, sometimes although they get 2 years like he did, it actually is time served if they've been in some kind of home detention or some kind of monitoring or whatever. So their liberty has been limited, and when your liberty is limited like that or confined, then you get credit for that time.
Right.
And so because the sentence is low, I think that's why some people are second guessing whether or not he will actually serve any time.
Do we know if he was monitored at all?
I don't. Okay. I didn't actually follow the case closely enough to be able to tell you if he did or if he didn't. But generally when you're first charged and you're processed, there's a couple of days there. The nature of the time, he may be eligible for parole very soon.
Right.
The question of putting him in the question then comes, where do you put him? Do you put him in a halfway house because it's a low sentence, or do you put him in an actual jail? And he could apply for and ask for home detention. I mean, there's a slew of things that can be done that could avoid actually being incarcerated.
But he's going to get some special privileges because of who he is, isn't he?
Well, anytime you have a high-profile individual who's going to be, let's say, incarcerated, there is always the consideration of safety for the prisoner, because you don't want to expose someone to the population that might cause them to be harmed by other inmates and such, more so because of their public image, and they're not just anyone.
There's not a lot of fear not a lot of fear he's going to be a violent actor.
No.
Now, while he's waiting on the appeal, what happens generally? Does he begin serving out his sentence, or in general, do you get a chance to still be free while your appeal is
They can keep you on your bond during the appeal, but generally once you've been sentenced, even if it's an appeal, you serve your sentence. I have a number of clients whose cases were reversed, and then they were let go and served by the time and went through the appeal process 2-3 years.
So that's a sentence.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, even though you're serving the sentence, and then your appeal, you win it, you're reversed, and let's say they let you go, you have to wait serving whatever it is your sentence is during that time. It's very rare for you to be allowed to be on some kind of bond or anything, because you have to have a final order to appeal. So the sentence is your final order in a criminal case.
My point is that if it's going to take a couple of years for an appeal to go through, and his
he
sentence
could
is a
very
couple
well
of years,
have served. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he would have served his time, and it would be.
I would like to know how much that trial cost the state and the taxpayers, and that is what the real crime is.
Well, it's the federal taxpayers. It's not just the state of Virginia. Right?
Okay, but it's still, that is the crime.
No, the crime. Why is that the crime, Jeffrey? I'm sorry.
Because our tax dollars are going for the actions he took.
Okay.
And I guess with the appeal process, there's the potential that there could be another trial as well.
Yes. If they find an error and they reverse and remand back, then they would have to that. At that point, the prosecution would have to decide if they want to retry him or not. Sometimes deals are worked out, or they decide not to do it.
Now, one final thing, because we're running out of time. We've run out of time. Jeffrey's point. Can the state get all the money back from McDonnell of what it costs to prosecute him? Can they get the $500,000, $1 million?
Restitution for expense of a trial doesn't exist. Restitution is for monies that have been stolen or taken or misappropriated.
Thank you
So,
for taking such a tough subject, and you made it very clear.
I hope it worked.
Another great subject. One of the high points of this county is Community Clinics Inc., CCI. We have our new CEO.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Kroloff.
Thank you, Knolhoff.
Well,
But thank you.
I don't have to say Kroloff. Ms. Knolhoff. What is between? So what are we looking at here from the future for
Community
CCI
Clinic.
right now? And tell us a little bit more about what CCI does.
And just to let you know, CCI has been in Montgomery County providing primary care services for over 40 years. We recently, in 2008, moved into Prince George's County.
Right.
So we currently have 15 service locations. 9 of them are primary care, 2 are dental services.
Okay.
We have a prenatal clinic in Greenbelt, and we have a WIC program that serves over 30,000 women, infants, and children.
You're the primary WIC provider, aren't you? Or one of them?
We are the WIC provider in Montgomery County.
Right.
We are the largest WIC provider in the state of Maryland. And our WIC clinic in Wheaton has the most people at any WIC center anywhere in the state, and serves over 10,000 people just there.
And what do they get at the WIC? That's women, infants, and
Women,
children?
infants, and children. It's a federal nutrition program. And they get education.
Right.
They get checks for specific foods that are prescribed for their individual needs. And those checks can be taken to a large number of food stores that they can get food in exchange for the check. But we also have a new behavioral health program. We were funded by the federal government for behavioral health services this year. We have
Fantastic.
yeah, it is fantastic. We're excited about it. We have our first integrated behavioral health director. We have started integrating primary care and behavioral health services.
So what does that mean, though? Like, so if I have a client who's having some mental health issues, how would they, and don't, obviously have a lot of money and they need help, how would they,
Access those services.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
Before you answer that, what's the number that people can be calling, and they can be calling while you're answering this
It's
question?
301 351 7525.
Okay.
301 340, I'm
Okay.
sorry, 7525.
It's the number that appears on the screen right now.
Yes, thank you. There are many numbers, and each of our health centers has their own phone number,
Right.
but that number will give you some. A community clinic is a federally qualified health center. There are about 1,300 in the state. There are 15 in the state that are headquartered in the state of Maryland. And so as a federally qualified health center, one of the things that we do is provide services regardless of person's ability to pay. A great number of our patients in Montgomery and northern Prince George's County, where our service area is, are immigrants who may or may not have insurance or even be eligible for insurance, even under the ACA. So they can call that number, they can get an appointment at one of our 9 primary care locations. And part of integrated care is if a patient is seen by a primary care provider, there's a care team that takes care of them. That care team includes the medical provider, the nurse, the behavioral health specialist, and others.
How do people find out about people that need to use your service for financial reasons, find out about it?
It's been interesting because we do very little marketing, and we have over 25,000 patients.
Right.
It's basically word of mouth.
Yeah.
We have access is growing. In 2008, when we became a federally qualified health center, we had about 8,000 patients. We have 25,000 now, so it's grown very rapidly.
I'm wondering, with your behavioral health, does it access your behavioral health services? Are they accessed the same as the primary care?
We've got about 45 seconds left.
You can either be referred by one of our providers, or we also you can be a behavioral health patient without being a primary care patient.
Okay.
You can be a dental patient at CCI without being a primary care patient. And we have 2 dental offices, one in Greenbelt and one in Gaithersburg.
I remember back to that case, was it a few years ago, elsewhere in the state of Maryland, the child who
Yes.
died because
Yes.
didn't get proper dental care.
Yeah.
How important that is.
Yeah. And we see a lot of our kids and our pregnant women from our WIC program as well. So getting people preventive dental care is certainly always the way and preventive medical care, certainly the way to stay healthy from the beginning.
Well, I thank you, and I thank you for all you're doing with CCI, and give our best to your predecessor, Bill Flint, who was on this show many times.
I will.
We're off to a
We
great...
keep in touch, yes.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll be right back after these messages. Asjoure Brown, welcome. Your first time on this show?
Yeah, it is. Thanks for having me.
Well, House of Ruth, one of the great names, most respected names of any organization in this area. It's great to have you. In my law practice, I practice immigration law, and some of the things I've done with is protection of women who have been victims of domestic violence. I know that the Community Clinics, Community Clinic Inc. is doing a new refugee program, which is huge. I know part of what you all do is protecting immigrant women as well as native-born women, and what you do is so important to this community. Hats off. So tell us more about what you do.
Well, I am the program manager for clinical services, so we have counseling and legal services available in Prince George's and Montgomery counties. So there are quite a few clients who have immigrated here from a variety of places, who, in addition to needing help getting out of abusive situations or support to stay safe also need legal assistance and
Cash assistance, school assistance,
Healthcare,
housing assistance.
yes.
I mean, it's got to be daunting at times when you look around, when you've got this person in front of you who is so
Yeah.
desperate.
Yeah, and it is, and it's important to have community partners,
Yeah.
you know, to help with that because we can't do it all by ourselves.
Well, and particularly, I know as an attorney in Prince George's County, the amount of unrepresented individuals that are struggling with protective orders or struggling with divorce and custody as a result of domestic violence
Right.
is huge.
Yes.
And it's a problem in the process because they don't know how to maneuver it. And House of Ruth does a great job in helping out with that, but they can't meet the need. Is such a huge
Yes.
need.
Yes.
Well,
And
how do you get your clients?
Well, they are referred often from other social services, from family support services at the court, sometimes court ordered to counseling. We provide counseling for the survivors and their children. We have an abuse intervention program, but not in Prince George's or Montgomery. That's in Baltimore. So there are a variety of inroads
And then
to
do you
our
collaborate with
services.
the other nonprofit groups that do similar work? Or
Yes.
is your work unique?
Well, there has to be some collaboration, and there are different reasons. We don't really have limits. A lot of domestic violence or intimate partner violence services are limited to, you know, how far from the last abuse incident how much time there's been.
We're talking, there's a phone number, I think, coming up on the screen right
Yes.
now for people to get more information.
Yes.
And do you provide any housing for domestic violence?
We do. Our shelter, though, is in Baltimore where we're headquartered.
Okay.
So we usually in Prince George's refer to Family Crisis Center, and then here to Betty Ann Cranky in
Right.
Montgomery
Yes.
County. Yes.
So tell us more about what you're finding in the courts, what you're finding with the police or the sheriff's offices. Are women, and I know it's not all women, but predominantly women who are the victims of intimate or domestic violence, intimate partners with violence. Are we seeing the state actors understanding the issues?
Yes, and the education has played a big piece in that. You know, we do some training, but overall, it's been, you know, the law is always catching up with the issue. That's kind of the nature of the beast. So when that happens, you know, you kind of have to advocate for the needs of the individuals that we're working with. We have so many laws that have changed that seem pretty common. It's only been 2 or 3 years that they've been removing weapons from people who have protective orders against them. Surprisingly.
That's a really important
Yeah.
point because, you know, with domestic violence, when they get the protective order, you know, those of us who have not been victims of domestic violence, you should be okay, but that's just a piece of paper.
It is.
That doesn't guarantee that the person, the actor, isn't going to pull out the gun.
That's right.
You know, and start shooting.
And I
or,
think when
you know.
they get those protective orders, aren't they at their most vulnerable point in terms of potential?
And so the immigration piece sometimes, or their
Sure.
immigration status sometimes becomes a deterrent. You know, depending on what part of the world they're from,
Right.
their interaction with the court systems or law enforcement could be just as scary as their abuser. There's also financial deterrence. We do have a legal clinic that helps with the protective orders, custody, divorce. But when it comes to immigration cases, we usually have to refer out for people who are undocumented.
And do you have translation services?
Yes, but we also have bilingual service providers. So we have 2 bilingual therapists in our counseling program here in Prince George's and Montgomery, and also on our legal staff we have bilingual staff.
Bilingual in Spanish.
Spanish.
Yeah.
And I have to say, real quick, it's really important is that for domestic violence victims, it is really super important for their support, and that therapy is helpful.
That's the final word.
Yes.
Asjoure, thank you. I hope you'll come back, and we'll all be paying attention and supporting House of Ruth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Slavin.
Yes, sir.
Of Somerset.
Happy to be here.
I thought it was Chevy Chase.
Happy to be here.
You're
Happy
president
to
of
be
the board
here.
of MCM.
Well, the board has been reconstituted
Right.
to be a community board as opposed to a board totally comprised of public access, of the access users here. And so in this way, the board now is representative of the population and also has all the skill sets needed to take this organization to the next level.
Because is there a more community-minded, community-centered organization than MCM? I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, I've been in the nonprofit sector for quite some time now, and I'm so excited to be leading this new board under the fantastic leadership of our executive director, Merlin Reinecke, because this is really the center of communications and news in Montgomery County, and it's an underused resource that everyone should use, individual, business, nonprofit leaders, and we should all get engaged.
You know, it's interesting when you look at this. You've got Channel 19 is really sort of the First Amendment freedom of speech. Anyone can say anything there. You've got 21, which is more of the programs like this.
Right.
Hopefully, as professionally done as possible, very informative. But MCM is so much more than that, isn't it? You got it's
blogging. It's blogging. It's also education. They're fantastic classes, and everybody of all ages, not only the youth, the new generations, everybody should be engaged with it.
We can
How
wait
is
one
the
second.
education-
We got a website up. I think.
Yes, everybody needs to go to the website.
Okay, was it
Because there's way too much at mymcmedia.org. Memorize that and get right on there. Also, Twitter and go to the Facebook page.
Education.
And is that where the education's available on the website?
There are actual classes here.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of the programming is done by volunteers. There's incredible volunteers in this organization.
Well, we've had a number of kids go through the backpack journalism course. It is one of the greatest things in the world because these kids learn how to put together professional programs. And since they've got their iPads, they have the tools right at their hand, then they're able to put it all together.
What's the age group?
Any high school, but then you can do this. I believe the classes are
high school.
I think the
I
oldest.
think it's like 14 to 18.
Right, for that. But then I think the oldest. I think it's 110 years old and below. Wow. I think 110 is the highest age you can be to get the regular education programs, to be a producer or other volunteer. So there's no age limit.
But those kids are getting skills they can use in professional careers.
And it promotes community.
And also, people that want to restart their careers can get.
Well, and to think about how many people got their start at MCM.
That's right.
Around Bruce DePoit on News
That's
Channel
right.
8, the face of News Channel 8.
That's
he
right.
started right here.
Right here.
People, I believe it's top journalists all over the country got their start right here.
Many did. And I think one of the problems in the past has been that this resource has not been publicized as much as it could have. And I think with this new board, this new community-oriented board, where people don't necessarily have a personal agenda for themselves, it's really going to take us to new heights. And so I look forward to coming back here periodically to raise it up. And I want everybody here today to get involved.
I want you to look in the camera right here, Jeffrey. I want you to make a personal pitch to the people of Montgomery County about why they should be engaged.
That's quite a challenge. I didn't even take the class.
Go ahead.
This Montgomery Community Media is an incredible asset for anyone that wants to know what's happening in Montgomery County and wants to get involved with what's happening. So please join us. Go to our website and go to our Facebook page. Thank you.
Not just Montgomery County, but Virginia, Maryland.
But remember, of course, the station is only accessible. But
on web, it's accessible.
But you can learn how to do a video, and you can put it on your own, and then it goes world. It's internet.
Yeah.
It's all over the planet.
Is there a calendar of classes on the website?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
That's all there.
That's great.
It's all there.
Classes going on all the time. Though.
All the time.
It's fantastic. And the other thing, just to throw out, a number of years ago with the amazing Marian Merowitz, we came up with an idea to do a program, and some of the people here help with this show. Help put together. So you have a good idea, and you put together a show. We ended up winning an award as the best talk show in America as a result of that. And it was just focusing on great people. And so if anybody has an idea, Jeffrey, they can come and present their idea and maybe do a show.
Definitely. And of course, let's not forget the Monty Awards, which is Montgomery County's Emmy Awards every year. And Don has been the host. And of course, everybody loves awards shows, and we like the competition element, and that helps also to build the organization and make the program better. So it's not only, our time is very limited, and we can't all watch television all the time, but there's other ways to get involved.
It's the last word.
great.
It's great you're going to be president. This is fantastic. And I want to thank you guys for being here with us today. I want to thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here next week at this very same time.